Okay, here we are. Alt.nerd.obsessive. Worst episode ever.
Hey everybody, welcome to Worst Episode Ever, a podcast for people who love The Simpsons, by people who love The Simpsons, about how much we hate The Simpsons. We're here trying to find which is the worst episode ever, and my name is Dan.
And my name is Jack.
And we're here again for another week in this blistering summer of life.
Well, cards at the table. We recorded a couple episodes in advance so we could.
Yes, I was actually out of the country for 2 weeks.
So let's just
prior to when this episode comes out.
I'm just like really worried that this summer, like all of a sudden, we just got hit with a sudden blizzard. Now, what the fuck's Dan talking about?
What are they talking about? The heat wave?
Or God forbid, like we just get invaded by Canada. And, like we're all in like death camps right now. And they're like, why are they still trying to be funny?
Should we just assume that we've been invaded by Canada and open the show that way?
Okay. We
Bonjour, everybody.
We welcome our new French-Canadian overlords.
There's no Canada like French Canada. That's the wrong show. South Park did it.
So hopefully none of that is true.
Barring any
I don't want to
Canadian,
look stupid.
Yeah,
in my Canadian death camp.
They'll be listening to the podcast like, "Oh, Jack, you sure look stupid.
It's so cold.
Qui a coupé le fromage?
You should have paid more attention in French."
All right. So assuming that we have not been taken over by the Canadians, welcome to Worst Episode
If I
Ever.
had a nickel.
If only. Fingers crossed that hasn't happened. Or maybe the Mexicans, come down from below.
All right, let's not get political.
Oh, hey now. Just saying, they're coming in.
Are you on the ticket too? With let's see. By now, there's probably 19 Republican candidates.
That's right. Yeah.
Including 2 DiCaprios. Yeah, I'm on the ticket.
Hey, you red and blue. I don't even know. I guess you're red. That makes sense. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Worst Episode Ever. We're back again. Today we have an episode from Season 25. We're revisiting Season 25. Wow. We have not watched Season 25 since our second episode.
Wow, so that's 39
it's been a while.
Weeks ago. Well, actually, it was 2 weeks ago. We recorded 37 in advance.
We recorded the first 2, and then we recorded 37 in one day. It's been really tiresome. It actually still is winter now, so we're assuming July is warm. No, we're going to be watching an episode called Luca Money Sign. It's Lucas with the S as a dollar sign.
Like Kesha.
Like K, dollar sign, ha. Yes, like Kesha.
Arliss? Didn't Arliss have one?
Do you mean Arli Money?
Maybe.
Yeah, no, Arliss had 2.
Both S's were?
Both S's, I believe. My name is Arliss Michaels. I represent sports stars. I couldn't remember the end of the opening.
I don't remember anything.
Well, it was a good show. As far as I know, this episode has nothing to do with Arliss. Maybe Robert Wuhl will show up. We can always dream.
King of the Wicker People.
That was last week, I think, or possibly 3 weeks ago. They're all blended together, and maybe that was even cut. I don't know. I don't know anymore. We're losing our minds.
Just turned into the end of Interstellar.
Love is a fifth dimension. Murph. That's the movie. That's it. Spoiler alert for Interstellar. Murph. It was all Murph. What episode are we doing? We're doing Lucas from season 25. Originally aired April 2014, so pretty recent. And this episode was suggested by Jennifer Blasky, who is a listener of the show.
Thank you, Jennifer.
And by Tom Genero, who is a I guess a listener. If you're listening, Tom, thank you. But he's also a personal friend and. He's probably not listening, but he told me to watch this episode and said it was not good.
Thank you, Tom.
So we're going to take a break in a moment, and we're going to watch this episode. First of all, Jack, have you seen this episode?
No.
All right, neither have I. I'm glad we got that out of the way and derailed everything in order to get that in. We're going to take a break to watch this episode, and if you have not done so, you can do that on Simpsons World, and you should do that if you don't live in America. You can do that some other way. Just Google, how do I watch
Actually,
Lucas?
The French Canadians, the first thing they did was ban Simpsons World.
That's right.
Just to embarrass us, because they rated, they saw the stockpile of episodes we were recording, like, oh, the irony. We love the irony.
That's how they laugh up there. The Quebecois. I don't know why they're just straight up French. That's not how it works up there. And if you click through our Amazon link on WePodcast.com, we haven't given enough love to the Amazon link. And that helps keep the show free and keeps us happy and keeps the French Canadians off our back.
Oui, Amazon through oui. This is, again, just French.
Yeah,
but
I get it. but we.
Yeah, that's
All right.
works on many levels.
Many levels. Let's take a break.
Never saw the pork eat the beans before. Actually, I'm a little surprised Lisa likes him. Really? Justin Blobber over there doesn't remind you of anyone? Women marry their fathers, Marge. So you just might be meeting your future son-in-law. God bless us.
So, that was Lucas, which is the name of the episode because there is a character named Lucas
With a dollar sign.
with a dollar sign who is in 2 or 3 scenes. So
Yeah. Well, he's around.
he's around. Let's talk about the plot. So the episode starts with Homer stuck in monkey bars, and he tells a flashback about how he ended up in the monkey bars.
He's stuck in a coil like Frank Reynolds
He's stuck
in one
in
episode of It's
Oh
Always Sunny
yeah,
in
that's
Philadelphia.
right. Yeah. Oh, that's what you meant when you said.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking
No,
about the Minecraft opening. I was like, oh, that's elaborate. They've really stepped up their game.
No, yeah.
It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia doing a Minecraft episode.
That would be interesting. I would watch that.
All right. Well, okay. I definitely remember him being stuck in the coil.
Yeah.
So once again, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia did it.
Already did it. That's right.
So he's stuck in a coil. He tells a flashback about how he got there, and then Bart goes to school. And wait, there's none of this.
Okay, so let's talk about this now because we usually recap the plot. There's not too much plot here. Like everything is really disconnected in this
Extremely
episode.
disconnected. All right. So
It's loosely like Lisa meets this kid who's a competitive eater.
wants to be an aspiring competitive eater.
Right. She's like kind of into him. Marge doesn't like that. She realizes she's going after someone who's like Homer and wants better for her.
Yeah. So she asks.
And that kind of doesn't.
Yeah. So she asks Homer to take Lisa out to a date. Homer is offended that Marge doesn't want Lisa to end up with a guy like him because he's a guy like him.
Right.
And so he's mad at Marge, but then he and Marge make up. Marge says, I do like being with you. I'm happy with that.
Yeah, which comes kind of out of nowhere.
Yeah, and then he finishes his dinner with Lisa.
Yeah, Bart's storyline makes even less sense.
Oh, yeah, so there's a B-plot where Bart makes a friendship with Snake, and Snake just keeps giving him gifts that he is stealing from other people.
Yep.
And that's that story.
Yeah, that's basically it.
All right, so we've got our work cut out for us. It's kind of late. It's one of our night podcasts.
Oh yeah.
So I didn't know. What?
Nothing. Yeah. I was gonna launch into a bit.
So,
but I'm not going. I'm trying not to.
So
Night podcast. That was it. That was the bit.
That was the bit. So I'm not really sure where to start, where to begin, where to end with this episode. So usually we take a few minutes to compile our notes, but I realized it was a completely lost cause. It was either I would need like 20 minutes or a half hour to just try to make sense of this episode, or maybe just by talking it out loud with you, I'll start to understand what the hell's going on. And
Yeah, maybe.
how I feel about this episode. But just to let you know, I don't know. It was such a
This episode blindsided you, huh?
It was such a disconnected episode that my brain is struggling to make any connections to form a coherent conversation.
It really was. This was a strange episode because it wasn't very cohesive.
No.
And it wasn't especially funny. There was a couple of moments
I would say, I don't know. I mean, it's funny how we quickly forget whatever we watched the week before.
Yeah, I don't remember any other episode of the show.
A good reason we have our number system, because supposedly that shows what we thought at the time. But honestly, every time we think back to an episode, we're like, I don't remember it being that bad.
Yeah.
But that aside, I think this might be the least funny episode I've watched with you on this show so far.
Really?
I wouldn't say it's the worst because it's not as offensive as the jerk ass homers in Bonfire of the Manatees or The Greatest Story Ever Told.
Yeah.
Or the offensive stuff in Large March. But I might say, so it's not the worst episode, but I might say it's the unfunniest episode we've watched so far.
Interesting. So, like we said, it starts off Homer's stuck in a coil on a playground. Yeah. And it did this really weird thing with these, like, nested flashbacks.
what I thought they were going to be nested flashbacks.
I thought the whole episode was going to be a flashback, and like the story of Lucas somehow tied into how Homer got stuck into this playground, but it's not. It was just like the first scene.
It was the first, So it looked like So it starts with Homer in the coil. Marge goes, "How do you get in here?" He goes, "Let me tell you the story of how I ended up in this coil." So it's like, okay, so the whole episode is going to lead up to this. And it's like you said, it's weird. It's just the first scene leads to that, and then it just moves on. But then that turns out to be a flashback of Bart telling Skinner why he was late to school, because he stopped to talk to help Homer out of the coil or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's a flashback within a flashback. So now I'm like, okay, so this episode is going to be a flashback within a flashback within a flashback, each connecting. And then there's a long scene with Skinner chasing Bart. And I was like, okay, so now Skinner's going to be telling. And they've actually...
that would have been cool.
Well, they've done it before. In a post-classic episode.
I hope it was cool.
You probably haven't seen yet.
I probably haven't.
But there is a post-classic Simpsons episode, which is that exact same conceit, where it just keeps
it's
a
flashing
story
back.
within a story within a story.
Like kind of like that Seinfeld episode that was backwards.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like that.
If that helps.
But no, this was literally just a story within a story within a story within a story within a story, and then eventually the last scene is the big overarching story. All the other story, Russian dolls, and it was all nested. Yeah. So that's why I was like, okay, I guess they're doing this again. That's weird. But no, it's literally the first scene is within the second scene. Or the second scene's within the first scene, and then it stops. And then later in the episode, there's one more quick flashback with the Kirk Van Houten, where Milhouse is telling a story about what happened with his dad. And then that was self-contained. So it's really weird and inconsistent.
Why do it that way? Because the first scene was Homer is stuck, and he's like, let me tell you the story. And the story was he was drinking at Moe's, he was drunk, he got stuck. Like, you could have just started there.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. If you're doing an entire episode like that and that's your gimmick, okay, fine.
Right.
Usually it helps if the gimmick serves a story in some way, but that's why I'm not a big fan of the Trilogy of Error episode. I think that's very overrated.
I think it's okay episode.
It is an okay episode, but I think I don't.
We'll do it.
I don't like people who group it in with the classic episode. But anyway,
you say people who Groophic in?
No.
Okay.
So here's a great example of when you use form to serve function.
Sure.
So there's an episode you might have heard of. I believe it's from season 2. It's called Dancin' Homer.
Not familiar with it.
Okay. So Homer becomes Dancing Homer. He becomes the mascot for the Springfield Isotopes, and he kind of lives out his dream. Because remember, this is season 2 before Homer basically became an astronaut and all this other crazy things.
Right.
Just being on a minor league baseball team mascot was a big deal for Homer. So the episode starts with him coming into a bar. He's all dejected, and he tells everybody in the bar the story of how he became a mascot, and he moved to Capital City, and he was working for the big leagues. And then he had a huge rise, and then he had a huge fall. And now he's back to being just a plain old schmo in the bar.
Right.
And at the end of the episode, and they keep cutting back to the bar and keep cutting to him telling the story. You know that it's a story.
Yeah, he's telling it in voiceover.
And then at the end of the episode, he realizes that he's still the center of attention. He's grabbed everybody in the bar. They're all looking his way. They're all listening to him talk.
Yeah.
So the entire point of the flashback was to show that Homer is still the main character of his own story, and he's still captivating everybody's attention.
Right.
So that's a great way for a flashback to actually serve the theme and the story, and it works beautifully.
Here's the thing about that episode, Dancing Homer. That episode ran short, and they tacked on the flashback stuff. If you watch it, all the animation in the beginning of the bar is the same as the animation at the end of the bar. Because
that's amazing.
The principle still holds.
Yeah. It's like Jaws, mistakes make the thing better.
Right.
It's great. It was good to hide the shark because it was broken.
Right. But the principle's still there because he does eventually find that he is still the center of attention. It's just it doesn't start with him telling the story again. Tell it again, Homer.
That's funny.
But interesting parallel, and here it's for no reason. It's just let's start with a flashback for shits and giggles. But it's really just shit.
And again, if it's one flashback, if it's just kind of an extended cutaway, okay. But to have this weird, who wants to buy a Russian doll that just has 2? And then another single Russian doll 5 feet away from that.
Teeny tiny one, way down in the second one.
It's just really weird.
Yeah. It was weird, but the actual scene of, so Homer is at Moe's with Lenny and Carl, and they have a book, I think it was called Advanced Drinking for Serious Alcoholics.
Yeah.
Kind of funny.
Yeah.
Not the funniest.
Yeah.
Kind of funny. Yeah. And they come up with a drinking game where every time on the news they say the word senator, they're going to take a drink.
Right.
And I liked that Mo overheard this and was like, hey, I can make a quick buck off my best friends. And he calls into the police station, the TV station, and says, I saw 2 senators taking bribes. Or I don't even remember what he said.
Right.
And then they do this really extended, not funny bit. A lot like this show, where Mo is like, yeah, I'm a reliable source. No, not sauce, a source. And he spells out source, and then on the news, Kent Brockman is like, a reliable sauce.
Yeah.
It just went on, and,
there was no point to it. The joke is that Mo has an accent, which we've known for 25 years now.
It could have been funny if Mo didn't, spell it out, and he was just like, I'm a reliable sauce. And then Kent Brockman, said, a reliable sauce
that could
in
be
his,
true,
enunciated
because I
newscaster
did
voice.
actually laugh when Kent Brockman said a
Yeah.
reliable sauce, because that's just a funny phrase, a reliable sauce. I like that. So, but Mo...
It was Mo beating it to
Mo
death.
on the phone on the interaction was terrible. Why do you have to ruin the scene, Mo?
Yeah, really, Mo. Why don't you just stick your head in an oven?
Oh, I was going to say stick to the script, but... Yeah,
Or kill yourself.
Or kill yourself.
I like to jump up and suggest suicide for fictional characters.
You would be a great writer for the show.
That's right.
And there's this weird Grinch parody, and there's a rat with a single antler that's supposed to be Grinch's dog.
Yeah.
And Mo makes a Grinch face, and it was just bad. There was no point to it.
There was
They've
no
done it
point to
before.
it.
They've done a Burns and Smithers
Right.
Grinch thing. It was just, we'll talk about this a couple of times, I think, throughout the episode where they were rehashing jokes they did. But
Well, it wasn't just rehashing the joke. It was also like, Mo's like the Grinch, but
Yeah.
it's not a Christmas episode.
It's just
the antler on the head of the mouse didn't make any sense at all.
Like the Grinch, the Great Burns Grinch thing isn't a Christmas episode either.
No,
I'd say.
but it makes sense.
But when he pulls Smithers to his face with his
Right.
necktie, he's not wearing an antler.
He's mimicking the same
the
animation. Yeah,
you don't need to dumb it down and put the antler on.
This
his
is
head.
just do you see what we're doing here? It's like a Grinch.
That said, it was also snowing on Mo's head, and this was my point: is I actually like the idea of the plaster falling down from the
fake
ceiling.
flaking, yeah.
That's a great mojo. I wish they would have put a pin in that and
Yeah.
found a time to integrate it in that joke. There's
Do it a little bit better.
Looks like there's snow in Mo's, and it's actually the plaster.
Right.
I thought he was going to say asbestos actually.
good.
Just save that and try to integrate it. There's so many funny concepts they come up with, and they just kind of shoehorn it into the episode. And maybe they should just try to save them or work a little harder to integrate them. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with you. But the following scene is just kind of Homer and Lenny and Carl just being drunk and kind of having fun. And I didn't think it was particularly funny. But there was something about the idea of the three of them just being friends and having fun and kind of being carefree that I did like.
I like Homer goes, I'm going up the slide, which is okay, a big deal.
Right.
But I love that Mo and Carl and they chant Homer. Homer.
Yeah.
They were
There
so
was
enthusiastic about him just going up the
Right.
slide. You're right. I like
It wasn't
that.
funny, but it was fun, I guess.
Yeah. Although I just said we were going to talk about this throughout the episode, and here's one of the 2 I think instances I saw where they redid a joke from the classic era. So Carl gets stuck in that tic-tac-toe spinning board.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. Yeah, you're right.
And his arms get stuck, and he starts getting deeper into it, and he goes,
Right.
"Oh no, the only way out is in."
Yeah.
And that's the exact same concept of when Wiggum gets his
tie stuck in the,
Was it his tie? Do
Yeah,
cops wear ties?
He does.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, his tie in the,
he gets stuck in the hot dog machine,
roller,
Quickie
Quickie
Mart, and he goes, "Uh-oh, this is gonna get worse before it gets better."
That's
Which
right.
is one of my all-time
That's a classic.
favorite
Stone
Simpsons
cold
lines.
classic moment.
And it's just funny, and it's Wiggum's delivery, and all. And this was kind of the same joke. Look, The Simpsons does the same joke. They do 10 Bart prank calls.
Yeah.
So I'm nitpicking here, but it just sucks to see something they've done and then not see it funnier.
Right. You just see a watered down version.
It's not What Up With That on Saturday Night Live. It's not infinitely funny every single time.
Some people don't like What's Up With
I know
That.
they
and I
don't.
don't understand them.
They say,
What's up with them?
Yeah, what's up with them?
Do-do-do-do-do. Now we're just doing
Yeah,
SNL
now we're
bits.
just doing it. Is it time for my terror kill him, Leonardo DiCaprio? Boo.
Is that the blue or the red? The one thing I did kind of like was... Actually, no, that was a different scene. After they come out of the flashback, there was something I liked. Where Homer's like, oh, this is the worst. This is bottom. And
I was gonna say, yeah.
And then the coil falls over and he falls into a puddle. I just like the animation of the squirrel hitting him in the face with
Animal
the water. animation
is great.
Animal animation is great.
The squirrel just hitting him in the face is great.
Yeah, but did you have something before that?
Yeah, the setup to that scene is Homer goes. And he's like, the kids say, we didn't want to see you hitting bottom, and then Lisa goes, at least I hope it was bottom.
Yeah.
Or I like that. It's just like the idea that bottom being an Alcoholic Anonymous term where that's literally your lowest point because of your drinking, and I like the idea that you'd never know if Homer's bottom is his bottom.
Yeah.
It is funny.
The bee bit my bottom. Now my bottom's big. And then, it pulls out, and it's another flashback because Bart was in the car, and then he's like to saying in Skinner's office, and that's why I was late.
Yeah.
Which we talked about, but then there's...
So maybe, I don't know, we talked a few weeks ago about how the Father's Day episode, Father Knows Worse, had this thing where they had like 4 different unique transitions between scenes, like the scenes... They put a little effort into a scene segueing into another scene.
Yeah.
So this was you could almost argue that this was a way of, like, an interesting way of segueing into another scene by using a flashback. But again, it's just really jarring because you do flashback after flashback and then no more flashbacks and then like one flashback in the third act.
Yeah.
It's just there's no symmetry to it.
There's nothing to it. It was just, why are we doing this?
Very atonal.
Yeah.
So Skinner. So I want to bring this up. I wrote it down with Skinner, and then I realized I kept writing it down. So let me just get it out of the way now.
Yep.
I feel like the voice acting in this episode was particularly poor, and I don't just mean they didn't sound like their voices. For the most part, everybody sounded like themselves. I think Milhouse sounded a little weird at times.
A little bit off, yeah.
I'm thinking maybe the actors are just now they're hitting their 60s and 70s or 50s, and maybe they're just there's a way that their voice is so naturally changing that maybe they can't quite hit it the way they used to.
Are any of them in their 70s?
Yeah, so the 70s, 60s. You're getting up there to maybe. Voice actors are very talented and they can use their voice in ways that I can't even imagine. Although I know my impressions of Doors and Groophic are pretty amazing.
Spot on.
But
wait. Are you just doing an impression of Groophic? Meaning that there is some other...
I'm not Groophic. Do I look like a big green and/or purple and/or blue and/or furry and/or leathery and/or monster?
So wait, let's hear your Groophic impression real quick.
It's me, Groophic.
Okay, hang on. Let me open this window real quick.
Get him from the bus stop.
The window's totally silent. That's weird. There's that trademark window in Wii Studios. Okay, hang on. Hey, Groophic, come in here for a second.
Yes?
Interesting. All right, so Groophic, Jack has an impression of you that he would like you to hear.
Hey, it's me, Groophic. Hey, Groophic, you're looking in the mirror. It's me, Groophic. It doesn't sound like me. Yes, it does. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Yes, it does.
This bit has gone on far too long. Wrap it up, folks.
That's Werner Herzog does a very good impression of Little Ghost Girl.
He does.
Thank you, Werner, for that little input there.
It is a pleasure. I will see you tomorrow.
I just listened to him on a Fresh Air interview where he said he threatened to shoot his lead actor back in the 70s or 80s.
Yeah, Klaus Kinski.
Yeah. And Terry Gross was like, would you shoot him? And he was like, there was just like weird, awkward silence for like 25 seconds. He goes, yes.
Let that be a lesson if you're working for Werner Herzog. He will murder you.
Anyway, so they're in their 60s, 70s. So again, their voice acting might be very strong. The things they can do with their voice is very impressive, but maybe there is a point where it's just so different from what it used to be that you can't quite get it. Anyway, but that's not what I'm really talking about. Despite Milhouse sounding kind of weird, and Snake, well, we'll get into that.
You're talking about the actual acting.
I'm talking about the acting. It seemed like they were just really phoning it in, and like Harry Shearer has this.
I think Harry Shearer literally phones it in.
Well, that's
in
the
this
thing,
season.
yeah.
Like he records his lines through a phone
sometimes, and he has a reputation of just not giving a shit anymore. He's been kind of vocal about he's not as defensive. He recognizes the show has dipped in quality.
Right.
He's not afraid to say it.
Hence he's leaving.
That being said, he's usually one of the most stellar performers. Even in the shittiest episodes we've watched, he's usually just banging these lines out of the park. Even in season 26, which is after this season. So you can always count on Shearer, and you can really count on the rest of the voice cast. They're all geniuses.
Yeah.
But for just as like Homer, Skinner in this scene. Just everybody seemed really off. I guess I'll just say this right now because it's not a really long point. but Snake features prominently in this episode, in one scene in this episode, and he didn't sound right, but I think we've talked about this on the show. When you have a tertiary character, I can't remember who it was last time, but when you have a character who doesn't usually say more than 1 or 2 lines per episode.
Right, they're not used to emoting in the character's voice.
When you have them talking. Bye! Yeah, so Snake is always just doing one-liners.
Yeah.
When you have him actually doing a conversation with different subtleties and different emotions involved, it doesn't sound right because you've never heard it before. So that's my voice. I just wanted to make that point that the voice acting, I feel like maybe because this episode was so unfunny that I'm just picking on it.
Right. Your mind was free to pick nits elsewhere.
But I just feel like everybody was just, I don't know, everybody's deliveries were just lackluster. Maybe it was the script. I don't know.
Well, not the delivery of it.
Like specifically, I recognized it first.
In the Skinner scene.
Throughout. Is in the Skinner scene. He's driving down the car.
Well, it wasn't, even before the car thing,
right.
Skinner has a brief conversation with Willie that I thought felt really, really forced. And I don't think it was the voice acting. Maybe Skinner was a little bit off, but it was the thing where he turns to Willie and he's like, Willie, cut me a switch. And Willie's like, what happened to the one your mom used to use on your bottom? And he's like, that one broke. And it's just like this really labored, like, Skinner mother thing.
Yeah, it's like, hey, this is a thing. We're still doing it.
But it wasn't even like, it wasn't funny, and it was just, it didn't belong there. You know, when I feel bad for comparing these episodes to the classic episodes and being just like, oh man, it's not as good as it was.
It's like comparing a child basketball team to the
to the NBA
Cleveland Cavs. Yeah.
Yeah. But like in the classic years, Skinner would just go off on like a tangent and like, oh, there's Mother now, and there would just be this weird thing of like, what is wrong with Principal Skinner? And I guess maybe now it's just this is 25 years of character development. It's just a shorthand where we know he has a crazy mother, and it's just. I think it was just the fact that it was Willie, and it just didn't sit well. It just didn't feel right.
I think it didn't sit well because it wasn't really integrated. Again, it was just cutting away to have this scene for the scene's sake. And
that was the problem throughout the entire episode. As I think we've said it before, but this episode doesn't come together.
It's not just this episode. I would say it's in general the post-classic episodes we cover. This episode,
but this one's
was
specific.
That.
This one was especially disjointed.
Especially the post-classic. Especially this episode.
But especially Lucas. We haven't even talked about Lucas yet, and he's the title of the episode.
But yeah, that's about all he is. So
well, yeah,
we'll get into that though.
But yeah, so Skinner drives after Bart, and he's like driving uphill, and his car goes out, and then rolls into a mechanics thing, and. This was not great. It was just...
it's the Charles Bronson voice guy.
Right.
Who usually is always funny. He's never not funny. He's like...
yeah, but they messed it up. I think this was another instance where it went too far. So the joke was Skinner's car is broken, and now he's rolled into the mechanics, and he says, can I get a quote? And then the Charles Bronson guy starts giving an Oscar Wilde quote.
Yeah.
And then...
God, it was that painful like Simpsons word humor that they do.
Don't think it would have been terrible if he had been like, okay, here's a quote from Oscar Wilde, and he started an Oscar Wilde quote, and then it cut. We don't hear the whole quote, and we definitely don't hear at the very end, P.S. your car is totaled.
Yeah, you might be right.
The P.S. your car is totaled thing, that was just... that was dreadful.
I don't know, it's just kind of vaudevillian, which The Simpsons has done vaudeville very well, so maybe you're right, I don't know, but I'm just so sick of their fucking puns and their stupid word jokes.
I know, it's just...
I mean, we'll talk about it a little later, there's some Patty and Selma ones that were awful, but the quote joke, I don't know, it's just like, do we need a quote joke? Yes, when you go to the mechanic, you ask for a quote, yes. A quote is also a thing somebody famous says.
Right.
But you're right. Maybe if they cut it off early.
I think it's just because you weren't laughing. You were thinking about the mechanics of the joke. And you're like, I don't like this.
Oh, I thought you meant the mechanic of the joke. And I was going to say,
double pun.
We should spell it out and say that this is the mechanic. And then this is the pun. We're spelling it out. There's another pun.
Hey, I should write for The Simpsons.
You should. So maybe it was also because of the Charles Bronson voice guy. His one note, like he's just a one-dimensional character.
Yeah.
His one note is that he's extremely sarcastic. He's like the most sarcastic man in the universe. So
right.
He's like,
that's not true.
They use him in other non-sarcastic. I mean, his best line is probably. The one you called the house is no more. He went over to his grandma where we sprayed for potato bugs. so that's not sarcastic, but like that basically you use him in that fashion with these funny one-liners. Maybe he wasn't the best mechanic to do the quote.
Yeah,
I don't know who would be, but not squeaky voice teen or.
Yeah. Maybe just don't do it.
Maybe just don't do it.
And then we go to Bart's treehouse, where Snake is hiding. He's on the lam. Snake Jailbird. They actually called him Jailbird in this episode, which was kind of weird.
Yeah, and also, for all that awkward setup, it would have been nice if they tied it in a little bit better. He just kind of appears.
Well, yeah.
Which is whatever. It's not that bad.
Nothing in this episode is set up, and nothing really pays off.
Yeah, it just kind of exists.
Especially in this Snake plot, because, like you said, Snake just shows up in Bart's treehouse, and he asks Bart to, do a favor for him, and Bart does for no reason.
Yeah.
In the past...
Well, his reason is they're both outlaws.
He's a rebel and an outlaw. That's a shitty reason.
I mean, what's it? Honor among thieves.
Yes, but also Snake has tried to kill Bart in the past. Tried to run him down with his car in season 3. I know continuity is not exactly the Simpsons' strong suit.
In Act 2, Death Drives a Stick.
That's right. But even so, it just, give me something. Give me, one, Snake, cleaned up the treehouse or something. Give me one thing that is that's why Bart would help him.
All right, so we're jumping a little ahead because we still haven't talked about Lucas.
Let's do it.
But I thought that this was going to be a Snake-centric episode.
Right.
At first, I was like, oh, wow, we've never seen a Snake episode. We've seen a couple of Snake plots, with the one I really want to show you with Julia Louis-Dreyfus' girlfriend. Right. But that's really a Burns episode.
Yeah.
And there's Hell to Pay, I guess. But so there's never really been a Snake episode. So I thought maybe it was going to be a Snake episode, and then they were going to set up his relationship with his son. Because that's what he does. He goes to Bart and he goes, I stole this for my son. I'm doing it for my son. So I thought Bart was doing. At first, I thought Bart was helping him out because he's like, "Oh, I'm a kid, and I could understand how you're just trying to look out for a 10-year-old boy just like me." And I thought there was going to be some kind of father-son thing starting with Snake. Especially because he's like, "We're both outlaws, so maybe he has something to learn from Snake."
Yeah.
You do this thing. It's like, what's
man? That would have been much better.
It's like a real criminal showing what Bart's adult life could be. I think they've actually done this episode before with not Snake, but the idea that maybe Bart can see what his future is like if he grows up to be an outlaw,
right?
And how he doesn't really want that. He wants to be a good kid. So I thought that's where they were going in that general direction. And then no, it really actually Snake barely appears in the episode, even though the plot is he keeps leaving these gifts. You never actually see Snake until the last scene.
So let's just talk about the Snake plot, I guess, and just get that out of the way. Why does so Snake leaves the treehouse. He successfully evades the police with Bart's help. And then later on, Bart and Milhouse are walking into Bart's bedroom, and there's a new PlayStadium 4.
Yeah. Again,
very clever title.
Why isn't it just PlayStation 4? They've said Nintendo on the show before. They've said Super Nintendo Chalmers. You can use the real thing. Why do they have to come up with these awful fake things? Why do they have Maple? Why do they have PlayStadium?
It is what it is.
Stupid. I'm sick of it.
It is what it is. We'll call it a PlayStation if that'll make you feel better,
I'm going
Jack.
to start a billionaire tech company in Japan, and I'm going to create something called the PlayStadium just so that they're stuck with having an actual brand name in their show.
Good luck to you. I'm sure it won't take any time or effort at all.
Well, by the time this airs, I bet
that's true.
You're all
right.
Playing on my PlayStadium.
The French Canadians have installed French PlayStadium 4s in all of your homes.
Japanese product that I invented.
That's how you're listening to this podcast. But,
I guess I would have had to have come up with the PlayStadiums 1, 2, and 3 first.
No, just go right to 4. Just go right to it.
Like how Xbox just went right to Xbox 360.
Right.
And dialed it back with the Xbox One.
I'm waiting for the Xbox 359. That's going to be next. Then the Xbox 2. Then the Xbox 358.
That's like a SAT question. What's the next Xbox in this chain?
It is an SAT question, and you are taking the SATs and you're failing. And this is all a dream, and you're naked. Now shut that window. Thank you. So they come in and there's a PlayStadium on the desk, and immediately I was like, "Oh, Snake stole a PlayStadium. That's interesting. That's a good idea." And that's obviously what it was. Yeah. And then Snake keeps stealing Bart gifts.
It's kind of creepy.
It is kind of creepy.
Isn't that what pedophiles do when they meet you on the internet?
So Snake is a pedophile. That's what we've learned.
He's like, isn't that what they do? They just buy you gifts.
I'm not sure why you think I know what pedophiles do on the internet.
You're the pedophile expert. Look, everybody, look. When we're talking about obscure early 80s sitcoms, we go to me. And when we need pedophile
we want to know what pedophiles do on the internet. That's Dan's time to shine. All right, what you do is you pretend you're a little girl. You go into a chat room, and you say age, sex, location. It's ASL.
See, I told you.
You say, I got some candy. Do you want to go eat the candy? They say yes, and then you're having sex with the children.
I just want to let you know right now, if you're listening to this show and you're eagerly writing down these notes, like, oh, that's great. That's your, ASL. Please stop listening to the show. You're
Yes.
unwanted.
Also,
you are
I'm
not wanted here.
fairly certain not only do chat rooms not really exist anymore, but even if they did, I don't think anyone says ASL anymore.
I guess you Snapchat your
That was
face.
You just send dick pics to random phone numbers. That's what I do, and it's worked out very well. It's how I got my wife.
That's how you met your wife.
That's exactly right. So no, I'm not sure what pedophiles do, but Snake keeps giving Bart gifts, and my problem with it was why he helped Bart. Hey, Bart helped him once. Like, give him one gift and then that's it. Why is there a continuing relationship?
That's how it works. You break it. You help.
Yeah, everyone knows that.
Help a escaped convict out, and he gets you one PlayStation.
No, it didn't make any sense. Like, why would he keep that? And I thought maybe there would be some payoff to it. Like, Snake wanted more from him, or like, he wanted him to be part of like his gang or help out his son. And no, it was nothing. It was just I'm giving you gifts because
the only, I guess, conflict of this storyline is that Bart really shouldn't be taking stolen items.
Right, and which he kind of learns once his MyPad that Snake gives him is Milhouse's. And Milhouse is the one who's like, hey, this is mine, and Milhouse ultimately rats Snake out.
The crime hits home, yeah.
Right.
And then really, and he doesn't feel that bad that Milhouse
No,
gets
not
stolen,
really.
Milhouse is the one that ratted him out. It wasn't that Bart was like, oh, I feel bad for my friend. Maybe I should stop taking stolen. It should have ended with him going out of his way to give all the gifts back.
You're exactly. That would have been much better.
Everybody down.
Then Bart kind of learns a lesson, or at least atones for helping Snake steal things.
It was really just a dumb plot line.
It really was.
You have Snake and Bart. Like we said, there's a lot of interesting connections between the two characters.
Yeah, there's a good dynamic there.
Or you have this father-son relationship with them, or again, maybe it was Bart helping. This is a Simpsons trope that they've done like 50 times already, where they help a secondary character reunite with his father and or son. So they did it with an episode you haven't seen with Fat Tony's son, where they help Tony's son with Fat Tony.
Okay.
And then they do it with Krusty's daughter.
Yeah, that one I have seen, unfortunately.
Yeah, and it's just so even if it was just that hackneyed plot, look, they've done Homer gets a new job and Lisa gets a new cause.
I could see that. That could be good with Snake's son.
And so this is where I said I was going to jump ahead. So we haven't talked about Lucas yet, but for a while I thought they were going to reveal that Lucas was Snake's son.
Oh, that would have been good.
Because they cut from that. The very next scene from the treehouse is where we meet Lucas. So I was like, okay, now you're going to reveal he's Snake's son because he just talked about his son. And then we never see his son again. We never see him.
No, we never see him at all.
We never really see Snake.
We saw
again.
a picture of him on Snake's phone.
That was the one thing I was like, I guess that's not him because it doesn't look like Snake.
Man, that would have been so much better, and it would have made sense too
especially because the name of the episode's Lucas.
Yeah, it would have made sense because Lucas is kind of lashing out and trying to get attention by being a competitive eater. Maybe because his father's not around.
He wants to earn his praise. He doesn't want to steal it.
Yeah. Wow, that's a much better episode.
Yeah, just make him his son. And then the other thought I had, which is completely irrelevant because they didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Then I was like, why would they make it him? Why are they doing another son again? We've done son. We just talked a few episodes ago when Lisa was playing soccer about how there's no secondary or tertiary characters with daughters because they couldn't fill up the female soccer team. They had to use
Jessica Lovejoy.
Jessica Lovejoy, who was in one episode 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Because besides Krusty, there's really no other characters that have daughters. There's girls like Janie and the twins, but we don't know their parents.
Right.
They're the characters. Their parents aren't. So it's weird that all the parents have sons. You have the Van Houtens, you have the Wiggums. They all have sons. So I was like, oh, great. Give Snake a daughter. And that's an even more interesting dynamic because he's this macho jailbird character, and he's probably a really loving dad with his little girl.
Yeah.
And then maybe that could have tied in. But that's completely moot.
Yeah,
but
they don't do that. They don't do anything interesting.
At the very least, Lucas should have been his son.
Yeah, I think that would have been a lot better.
And the storyline should have had something to do with it.
Yeah, that's a good kernel of an idea that we could hammer into a better episode than what this is. Just being like, oh, by the way, my son is Lucas, doesn't help the episode.
There's a podcast in one of the parallel universes right now.
That's right.
Where what are they? Dack and Jan.
Dack and Jan
are talking about how they love this episode because of the dynamic between Snake, his son, Bart, and Lisa, and how it was a very complicated, David Mamet-esque.
And they're comparing it to that terrible season 4 episode where they reunite Krusty with his father and how terrible that episode was.
They're so happy that the show got good after
so good.
season 9. It
Yeah.
suddenly just got really good.
You know, this crappy show was on for 10 years, and it just was terrible. But then all of a sudden, it got amazing.
Harry Shearer's begging to stay on the show. They're trying to replace him with some guy on YouTube, and he's like, please, I'll work for peanuts.
That's right, literal peanuts. Because in that universe, peanuts are currency.
And then they jump into their Kirk Cameron voice. It's me, Kirk Cameron. I was on growing pains.
Boy, that is really an alternate universe where Kirk Cameron is the opposite of Leo.
He's the big movie star.
He's the one who blew up from Growing
Scorsese
Pains.
uses Kirk Cameron in all of his Left Behind movies.
Wow.
And that's our parallel universe.
That is the darkest timeline, sir. Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things in the Snake thread that maybe we could talk, like terrible Milhouse stuff, which I don't even want to mention. Milhouse was terrible in this episode.
Yeah.
You can't spell crime without me, and then he spells out crime, and he's like, there it is, right at the end. That landed
No
like
pun
a
intended, but that is a
lead
very
balloon.
spelled out,
literally.
spelled out trope that we've talked about time and time again on our podcast about the post-classic episodes where they have a decent joke or an okay joke. In this case, not really that good of a joke.
Yeah.
And then they just spell out the entire joke. In this case,
Here,
Milhouse
literally.
literally spells it out. And just like, this is the joke. Wait, me is in crime.
There it
It's
is.
like, yes, we get it. And you just
Letters
wasted
M&E.
10 seconds of our time. That, in theory, that 10 seconds would have been used for real jokes, but
Right.
it doesn't really matter. They're not wasting any time here. It's
Yeah, it's just, ugh, it was just bad. But then at the end, so you find out that there's now a death penalty for 4 strikes in spring, or 4 balls and walk to the death to the electric
That's not
chair.
bad.
I like that. So Snake is now in death row, and Bart has to go into the. Well, he doesn't have to. Bart doesn't have to do shit, but Bart, it feels bad that Snake, a known criminal, is going to die.
Yeah.
And he goes to he brings all the stolen stuff to the police station, and he says, this was a very interesting way to go with this plot. He says, no, officer, he was stealing all those things as a gift for me. It wasn't for greed, which I'm no fancy big city lawyer. I am actually a fancy big city lawyer.
You sort of are.
I am. But stealing is stealing no matter what reason you're doing it for.
Again, if he was doing it for his son, or there was some kind of actual moral reason for him
Something
to
to
steal,
make us care about Snake, like
Yeah.
even a little bit.
then maybe you could make that argument, but the
No, they
argument,
don't do that at
no,
all.
he's just stealing for me.
Yeah.
It doesn't really work. It's not
No.
like you can cheat on your wife and then go, no, I was only doing it because it makes my penis feel good.
Wait a minute. You can't?
Well, I'm no big city monogamist, but
All right, good. My wife doesn't listen anyway. Except when she does. Okay, so I think it was... What was the most recent episode that came out? The We After Dark episode.
our birthday episode.
Right. We were listening to that, and I said something about her, and I was like, that's all right. She doesn't listen to it, and obviously she was listening to it with me. And she was like, what else do you say about me on the podcast?
That's what she sounds like too,
Yeah.
you jangle.
What else do you sound like? Wait, that didn't make sense.
I talk in the second person.
My wife is here. Oh my God.
It's me, Dad's wife, Jangle, and I talk in the second person. I mean, you talk in the second person. Talking in the second person is incredibly hard. You know? You? What's you know?
You know you.
What's you know in
Who's
second
you?
person?
Who am I?
What is, if you're talking in second person, which, am I talking...
That what you.
when
It's
I
very
s-
hard to talk in the second person, you know?
am I just talking hypothetically, like when you, or am I talking in second person when I say when you? Is when you second person?
I'm not sure you can talk
Or
in
is
the second person. I guess it is
second
hypothetical.
person is just not you. I guess second person is you.
It's like, okay,
command.
you walk down the store,
Yeah.
down the street,
So when I
go
s-
to the store.
So when I say when you are talking in second person, am I talking in second? No, I just now I'm
you're
talking
not
in
you.
first person.
It would be I'm you. Wait, okay, so here's if he does it and you
That's
do
what I'm
it.
saying. So if you're talking in second person and you're talking to a person,
Yeah.
now are you talking to them in third person, like in those Game of Thrones? The
Game of Thrones.
the many-faced god.
Oh, yeah,
they
yeah,
talk
yeah.
in a weird third. They talk in third person to people. Their second person is third person.
I'm so confused, and we have not talked about Lucas yet, and it's the title of the episode.
You haven't talked about Lucas.
You haven't talked about Lucas.
All right, that's what I just said.
I said plural you, though. Meaning both of us.
What about the royal?
I was just going to say that.
Get out of my head, you.
You get out of your head. What is this podcast?
The royal you.
I guess we're done with Snake. So
No, I got a couple things. So,
All right.
I think this might be the one other time I noticed a joke the Simpsons have done before, only they did it much, much worse this time.
Yeah.
So, one of the things Snake steals is the squishy machine from the Quickie
Oh,
Mart.
yes, I
Yeah.
want to talk about this. Thank
And
you.
to placate Milhouse for his stolen MyPad, he offers him uncut syrup.
Right.
Which is a dark joke.
Also known as an all syrup,
Yeah.
super squishy,
Exactly.
Boy Scouts
so
in the
it's
Hood,
all
season
syrup.
5.
And look, if you had a slush puppy machine when you were growing up, not in your home, but at the local corner store.
Not in your home? Or in your home?
You flirted with the all syrup idea.
Oh, yeah.
And then the classic Boys in the Hood episode, was it Boys?
Boy Scouts in the Hood.
Boy Scouts in the Hood episode did a great job where Bart and Milhouse have $20, so they spend it on an and they hype it up. The machine
Yep.
shakes. He doesn't know if it's going to make it. And then they go crazy Broadway style, and they do a whole musical, which we like.
Oh, absolutely.
We hate musicals. We
Yeah,
love that musical.
We love that one.
It's like, thanks.
It makes
kid.
sense, because
New York
they are
is
on the
that away.
town.
Thanks, kid. Yeah, and they do a whole specific parody of
On the town.
On the town.
New York,
and
New
it's
York.
a great.
It's a hell of a town.
It's a fun way to show this when you're a kid, the all syrup squishy is a huge.
That's the dream.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that works. So they do the same joke, and again, if you're gonna do the same joke at 600 episodes, fine. You repeat jokes. The classic Simpsons repeated the same jokes all the time.
Yep.
What up with that? Funny every single time.
That's right.
So if you're gonna do the same joke twice, all this does is Milhouse just runs around in a circle.
Just runs around like
Does
a
he have,
hyper kid.
Wall or something.
No, not even. And
No.
it's just cut. Next scene, he's like laying on the couch.
So again,
What was that?
Elaborate, amazing musical that is also a pitch perfect parody of a classic piece of pop culture from the 50s or 60s versus I've had a lot of
Kid
sugar.
has sugar. Kid runs around.
Yeah.
And-
I'm not even going to discuss it. I'm just going to lay it out for you guys, and
Yeah.
you be the jury,
You be the jury, or you be the jury?
the royal you.
The royal use. I did actually like a thing Milhouse said right before that. It was a very small thing, and it wasn't like funny, but I just kind of liked it. Where Bart explains that Snake was stealing stuff, and Milhouse is like, "I never would have expected the one criminal in town,"
Yeah.
which I just kind of liked as like, he's always the criminal in,
Right.
in Springfield.
Snake, eh? I never would have suspected the one criminal in town.
All right, so that's kind of it for the Snake plot. Let's double back, much like the famous ZZ Top song from Back to the Future 3. So Lucas. So Lucas is a big fat kid who is a competitive eater and is voiced by Zach Galifianakis.
Now, I talked about already how the voice acting in this episode was generally poor. I would say the one exception was Zach Galifianakis.
Yeah.
He brought his A game.
Definitely.
The lines weren't very funny, but he actually, you could tell that
some of it was funny.
Yeah, you could tell that he was happy to be there. It was probably a big deal for
Right.
I feel like it's a big deal for anybody who watched The Simpsons in the '90s
Yeah.
to be on the show.
I can't speak for you, but I can speak for me, and I am a huge Zach Galifianakis fan. Not necessarily like the movies he's
Right.
done. I'm not the biggest Hangover fan. I think The Hangover 3 was one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life.
It was pretty bad.
But his stand up and just kind of like the personality that Zach Galifianakis is.
I'm not way in the bag for him,
Really?
but I do like him. I do
Yeah,
I do like him a lot. I have nothing against him.
I'm a big fan. His shtick, I guess. I'm a big
Yeah.
fan of his shtick.
I like him.
So it was great to see him in this episode, and I agree with you. He did
Yeah.
a very good
It was
job.
nice. It was nice again that he gave his character a character. He wasn't just doing himself or a version of himself.
He wasn't just doing his own voice either. He
Yeah.
also did like more of like an up, like
Yeah,
like
yeah.
a little kid happy voice.
He actually went out of his way to do a different voice, which
yeah,
is great.
Loved it.
It was just a really decent performance.
Yeah.
Man, who is this character though? They never explained why he's new in town,
Right.
Or who. his
Presumably
parents
he's gone
are.
and never to be seen
I guess
from
because they
again.
don't need to, and they've done this so many times. The new student at school that it's just a waste of time. Which I guess I would be on board with if they were again using that time wisely. That
Right.
the extra time.
Well, not only that, I mean, we have no idea where he comes from. He's just suddenly new at school, but also the way he's
not
introduced.
Snake's son.
He's not Snake's son. It would have been better if he was. The way he's introduced is we have all the scenes we talked about before where like Skinner's chasing Bart, and then it's like it just basically cuts to Lisa walking into the cafeteria, and he's right there.
Yeah,
and they're just like, who are you? Yeah. I'm Lucas. I'm a competitive eater, and I'm voiced by Zach Galifianakis.
Yeah.
And that's it. It's
was
just
so bad.
It's like, did somebody say perfect game?
Yeah, it was like the Tim Conway. When this in the Springfield Simpsons the Simpsons showcase, it was like, did someone call me Tim Conway? And look, it's special guest star Tim Conway. It was that.
It was just that. I like the idea of competitive eating as a plot point in a Simpsons episode.
Because it hasn't been done.
Because it hasn't been done, as far as we know, at least.
Yeah.
As far as you know. It has not been done, and my first instinct was, why are we wasting it on a kid when
we've
competitive
never met before?
Especially on a kid we've never met before. When I think competitive eating in The Simpsons, my mind goes to that is a Homer plot.
I thought you were going to say Maggie. And like,
wow, that's a much better episode. Maggie the competitive eater.
And Homer, the name of the episode should have been Homer the competitive eater instead of Lucas, because it's not about Lucas. He's in two scenes. But they even do a scene where Homer goes, "What's that about competitive eating?" Marge's
like, no, you'll die.
I like that because it's meta. The joke is, this is exactly something Homer would get into.
Right.
So I do like that meta joke, except you're right. It's a great joke, but it's at the expense of not having this plot, and it would have been a much stronger.
I still kind of want to see Homer the competitive eater as an
exactly.
episode, and done well.
No, you're right. Then maybe he starts he just starts rattling. He just starts talking about competitive eating. It's just like, this is my and Kobayashi is my hero. And Kobayashi does Japanese style, and then you break the hot dogs in half and you dip them in water, and this is how you eat them.
Yeah.
Again, this is all just exposition. It's unnecessary. It's all just a long-winded way to say, hey, this kid really likes competitive eating.
Yeah.
Maybe there is stuff that would be there about how soaking the bread in water and eating it, and like this very interesting niche sport. That would have, rather than just spelling it out for the crowd and just lame exposition, and that's not funny. Is it funny? Did the writers think it's funny for us to watch him do it? Whereas,
I have no idea.
Again, if it was a Homer-centric episode, maybe that would be funny. Him like, oh, what else can I rip in half and soak in water? And he just like rips a turkey in half. Like stuff like that. As opposed to,
I like that.
What are we supposed to be laughing at? Was it him?
Right.
Was it Zach Galifianakis' delivery of the term Japanese?
I mean, that's basically all I was laughing at. But like I said, I'm predisposed to like Zach Galifianakis. I did actually kind of like, he says something in Japanese as like a Kobayashi's phrase,
a quote,
and that's gonna hurt coming out.
And it was a good
that got a laugh out of me. Yeah, I like that.
It was a good punchline delivery.
So Lucas comes to the house, and I forget if he introduces himself or if Marge says, "Oh, is your name Lucas?" And then he's like, "Oh no, I'm Luca $, which was the same joke I made earlier in this podcast. So there you go. Simpsons writers are very smart.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's just what a weird little trait to give them. Again, maybe
it
it's
is
more highlighted.
You know what? You're right.
Maybe it's more highlighted because it's the name of the episode, and we wouldn't give it as much thought if it wasn't. But
wait a minute. Why is his name Luca $?
I guess that's like his stage name, like a special. I don't know.
That's weird.
I don't know.
Kobayashi's name is actually Kobayashi.
Yeah, I feel like the competitive eating champions usually have like.
I mean, Joey Chestnut is not actually named Joey Chestnut.
Oh, he's not?
Is he? Maybe he is.
I thought he was. That's a weird name to just give yourself.
Stall while I go to Wikipedia.
So, second person. So if you're talking,
his name is Joey Chestnut. Yeah. That's his real name.
Yeah.
Look at him.
That's what I'm saying. So it's funny that like all the recent champs of competitive eating are. Although maybe by the time this airs, there might be a new champion July 4th.
Oh, you're right. That's true.
But
we all loved the performance this year by insert name here.
No, and knowing for competitive food champions, there's probably some wacky name like Lightning Bolt. It's literally because you're wearing a Flash t-shirt. You're wearing your Flash shirt, and I couldn't come up with it.
It's like if his name was White T. Whitey.
Yeah, that actually does sound like a competitive eating name. Yeah, it's like if you're in a shoe tying contest.
Yeah, classic knot tying contest. Here's a question. Why is Lisa into Lucas? And then they answered that question. That was a question I had. I should have set that up better. And I actually really liked it. It was because Marge points it out that why is Lisa attracted to this fat kid who's like a loudmouth?
I didn't see that coming.
I didn't see it coming either, and I really liked it.
When she, at some point in the cafeteria scene, the previous scene, she just decides she likes him. You could see her train of thought, and I was like, man, what?
I think she actually had a voiceover. I think.
I was like, that kind of came out of nowhere. I don't.
Right, that's what I thought too.
But you're right. For the Simpsons, who have done so many plots and so many episodes, to have done a fairly universal storyline where children are attracted to people who are like their parents. If you're a straight man, a lot of straight men are attracted to people who are reminding their mother, and a lot of straight women are attracted to people with their dads or have daddy issues if they had shitty dads.
Right.
I don't know how it works for gay people. If you're a gay man, do you want somebody who's like your mother or your father? I don't know.
Write in and let us know. Gays of the Wii universe.
If you're a pedophile, do you want kids that remind you of your mom, your dad? Pedophiles, don't write in.
You want a kid who reminds you of your mommy.
No, but so that's actually a great, and like Lisa's had a few boyfriends or crushes at this point. She's had Nelson, which was a great pairing. She's had some preppy
Ralph,
kids that were more like her. She has Ralph. She had Milhouse. So this is a great one we haven't seen. We haven't seen a Homer-esque child,
right?
Which Lucas really isn't. So if you're going to do that story, he likes to eat. But he has no other It should be. It really should.
I don't know about that because he is like
a reckless.
He loves to eat, and he also likes to be the center of attention, and he's kind of like a dope.
Does he like to be the center of attention? Not on purpose.
Well, maybe not the center of attention, but he's an attention seeker.
Besides the eating, he's a guy with a dream. She calls him a Ralph with a dream.
That's true.
Homer has dreams.
To be on the Gong Show.
When they pop in his head, yeah, but it's not really his defining trait. He just kind of gets these specific things.
Yeah,
it doesn't really I think it would have been stronger if she got with a real Hoju, like a Homer Jr.
Right. I got you.
Yeah, like a really just a miniature child version of Homer who's
right.
It could even been Dan Castellaneta doing a version of his really cute Homer as a child voice.
Yeah.
That could have been more interesting. I mean, it doesn't have to be so like Homer. I guess but the fact that the only thing that's tying it in is the competitive eating is a bit much. It would be like our fan favorite character Hugh Stretched. That seems like something he would have something to say about.
Seems like a bit of a stretch, Jack, old boy.
Exactly.
I don't even think that was the voice he had in the deleted scenes.
He never had a voice
from 3 weeks ago or whatever.
It was literally me saying I wanted to create the character, but I didn't, and now by my not creating him, he is a character.
Well, now you have. What a stretch.
Damian Lewis, the next James Bond?
Yes. Wait, is Damian Lewis the next James Bond?
He might be.
Really?
He's on the short list now. Not even by the producers, by like an odds maker.
I was in Dreamcatcher. Rather. Where were we? Can't recall. I know what I wanted to say. So Marge is looking at Lisa and then is like, I don't want her to be with someone like Homer, which is a mean thing for her to say, but we'll get into that as that happens. And then she looks down at Maggie, and Maggie is hugging like a big stuffed pig.
Yeah.
And Marge takes the pig away and puts in like a well-dressed teddy bear in a top hat.
And then Maggie does this call me. She was really sad.
I thought it was really cute. I really liked that.
It was
actually
cute, but it was sad. It was
so heartstrings.
So mean of Marge to do that to poor Maggie.
Yeah.
So this brings me up to a point I wanted to bring up about this episode.
All right.
So she does the phone, the call me. And then there's just a weird. 3 plucking strings musical cue, and then there's an act break.
Yes,
It just goes boop boop boop, which the Simpsons have done before.
They've done that a number of times, yeah.
But that's what I realized in the next act, after the Simpsons World commercials. There was very, very little incidental music or score in this in this episode. There was a Rossini classical music number during the.
Dropping a Rossini over here.
The subtitles said Rossini. I just wanted to sound smart. So they play that. But there's very little score in this, and I think that really highlighted how bad the jokes were, because it was just kind of weird that there were so many scenes of them just talking. Classic Simpsons.
It was weirdly quiet.
That's exactly it. It was classic Simpsons, especially during in between scenes. Just to give a little punch, they would usually do a dun 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 as a car pulls up to an exterior location or something like that.
Yep.
Or they'd just be these Alf Clausen. It's hard to describe, but you would know him if you hear him. There's so many Simpsons themes that aren't
Right,
the Simpsons
just
theme.
real short,
not necessarily
3 to
from
5
the
second
opening theme.
bursts of music that just introduce scenes.
Yeah, or end scenes on dramatic beats.
Right.
Fucking film score. Like score music.
Yeah.
So it's just really weird. I wonder if it's more of the if this is a trend. I don't know. I feel like we would have noticed by now, or I don't know. I'm gonna keep an eye out for especially like season 25, season 26 episodes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm very curious.
Listen to the music.
Yeah, I'm very curious. It was just, again, it makes it very quiet, and it just sucks kind of the energy out of them, and it also highlights the dialogue, which you don't want to do when the dialogue is this bad.
Yeah.
It's just really off-putting. I don't know, just something to note.
So that was the act break, and then when it came back, they did something that I wrote I kind of liked. There were a bunch of things in this episode that I kind of liked. And what I kind of liked here was Marge is in bed kind of thinking about Homer and Lisa's future, and you pan over to Homer, and Homer is sleeping, and he's dreaming like he's a dog, like he's running and then falls off the bed. Did you like that?
No, I didn't like it at all.
Oh, I kind of liked it, that Homer's like a big dope, and he would dream like a dog.
That's why I didn't like it. It's just like, all right, he's dumb, he's like a dog, and then he hits his head in the wall.
But that was more of like an oafish, sweet thing as opposed to a jerk-ass thing. I mean, if you didn't think it was funny, that's one
Maybe
thing.
if it was integrated
Look,
in some way.
I only said I kind of liked it. I won't go to bat for it. We can move on.
Yeah, maybe it was integrated in some way. I think we skipped when Patty and Selma are there and talking about. This is where Marge.
Oh yeah.
So this is where
Sorry.
Marge reveals that, or realizes rather, that she sees the connection between Homer and Lucas.
Right.
and
Well,
she doesn't-
Patty and Selma pointed out.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And it bothers her, and they make some dumb fat jokes, and one of them is they call him Justin Blobber. Now, Justin Bieber is a kid that is
Wow,
popular.
I didn't even hear that.
Before the French-Canadian invasion,
Right.
Justin Bieber was...
Well, now he's our
now
overlord
he's our-
because
now,
he
yeah,
is Canadian. Yeah.
yeah.
Also, all hail President Bieber.
Of course,
but
yeah. And we all have our tattoos now.
yes,
and,
we're loyal
Who would
to
have
you.
thought that skywriting over New York City several weeks ago? It feels like yesterday to us. But that skywriting that said Justin Bieber is a smile file was actually the
That was the
Manchurian
harbinger.
candidate key phrase for all the spies, all those
sleeper agents
the
to
sleeper
come
cell.
to come awake.
Anyway, so they call him Justin Blobber. Justin Bieber is a kid. Lucas is a kid. Bieber sounds like Blobber. Blobber sounds like fat.
Bieber doesn't really sound like Blobber.
So that's what I'm saying. It's like, were the writers really like...
That's really tired.
Like, all right, let's just do... Like, how were they okay with that? Weren't they like driving home that night and just going, maybe we should cut that. Like, maybe we should
Maybe
try
we could do a little bit better.
It's just really frustrating. It really reminds me of when they're the boy band and Lieutenant LT Smash has them blow up the office of Mad Magazine, and we get a quick peek at the writers of Mad Magazine, and they're like, all right, well, we've been up all night, but we finally came up with a parody for Everybody Loves Raymond. Everybody hates Raymond. And like the joke is that it's just such a lame,
obvious.
It's a lame line, and why would you put that effort into it? And that's literally what they must have put some effort into this awful line, and it is that scene, and that's sad, or they didn't put any effort and they're just fucking half-assed in it, and it's like, come on, guys. Why is that line there? Why is that there?
I honestly didn't even hear that line.
I think
or
they also
remember
do
it at
another
all.
one that's a little less not clever, where they call him her ton-in-law.
That one I heard, and I actually,
it's
again,
all
I
right,
kind of
whatever.
like that one. Like, that shows at least a little
But
bit
it's
of wordplay.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying with the wordplay. Like, do you have to do it just because it exists? Do you have to put it in there?
Look, otherwise it's just going to be 22 minutes of Lucas saying Japanese and dipping hot dogs.
I hate to give people, credit or ammunition when they say that people who compare the show to the classic seasons aren't being fair, but I really don't think the classic seasons were making these jokes, these stupid
No, they wouldn't have.
pun for pun's sake.
Yeah, I think you're right.
There's a flash forward.
That's what I was going to say.
So then Marge is really panicking that Lisa likes this boy, which they don't really keep. They kept up on this competitive eating. Maybe that was the problem. Again, if he was more of a Homer surrogate and the competitive eating was just like the first scene or one aspect of his personality and not
not his entire character.
Then maybe it would have made more sense, and maybe then they could have used the further scenes with Lucas to progress their relationship. It would have been nice if you could actually start to see Lisa falling for him, which I don't think really ever happens.
No, I don't think so either.
He's never really that much of a threat. Again, it's weird that you would just set up this crush and then not escalate it with each scene. Progress the story. But anyway, Marge, for whatever reason, thinks that she's going to fall in love with this guy, even though she clearly isn't. And she has a flash. She imagines what the future would be like if they get married.
Yes.
And I love Yardley Smith's white trash adult Lisa voice that she's used 2 or 3 times. I think.
A few times.
Like when she's really fat and she's married to Ralph. And
Get Mama her prying bar.
Yeah, I love Yardley Smith's delivery of that.
She's
and
great.
Again, voice acting was poor in this episode. In that case, it wasn't. It was really spot on. The voice acting.
I actually thought the whole scene was good. I liked the whole flash forward. It ended with Lucas had gotten very fat because he's a competitive eater and he's turning into a mini Homer. And then he just eats Lisa entirely. I thought that was great because I could see Marge fantasizing to that extent.
Self-contained, yes, I really do like it, and I do like the idea that she would her fantasy would go wild and that Lucas would eat Lisa.
Right.
But it doesn't really tie in again with is she worried that she's with this huge fatso, or is she worried that she's with a Homer surrogate? Because if she's with a Homer surrogate, then this flash forward should have looked more like Marge and Homer's dynamic now.
Oh, that's a good point.
Where he gets her a bowling ball that says Lucas on it with a $sign. Not that exactly, but
even that exactly actually could have worked.
The flashback really should have elaborated on the fact that he is a Homer surrogate and that Lisa is just attracted to her father.
You're right. I mean, it was that she was like white trash and he was kind of a big fat guy. It wasn't that they were Homer and Marge like
she's
2.0.
not worried that Homer's going to eat her. Maybe she is. But
well, I just like that as Marge's fantasy gone amok.
Again, that was a very funny self-contained scene, but it wasn't supporting the story as much as it should have, which again, it's hard to criticize that when there's really not much of a story to support.
Yeah.
It's all very...
I agree with you.
It's like a Escher... There's just every staircase is like any point we try to make is just going to lead to nowhere. It's going to lead to everywhere, and
now
everybody's Leonardo DiCaprio.
That's right. And you were you, and you were you.
And we're all you.
And
you're all you.
You're all you.
We're all the royal you.
That's right. So then the episode becomes that Marge tries to make Homer be a better father to kind of make Lisa want to be attracted to a better boy.
Yeah, this is
gets
where
kind
it
of
gets
muddled.
a little muddled, yeah.
Yeah. But the way that is set up is Marge...
I mean, I guess that's the right way to go about it. You can't just say, don't be attracted to... Don't try to find good qualities like your father has.
And then we get into pretty much the last act.
Yeah, so she suggests that Homer take her out to dinner, and Homer says, he could take her out to his favorite barbecue place. They can use, favorite seafood place. You smash your own crabs.
Oh, right, yeah.
And she goes, well, she's a vegetarian. And he goes, well, she could smash her own salad. I like that line.
That was pretty funny.
I don't think there was one joke in this entire episode that I legitimately loved. Even in the bad episodes, there's usually really, really funny jokes. Sometimes we even get jokes where I say, you could throw it in a season 6 and not blink. This episode had nothing close to that. That was one of my favorite jokes, but even that for me is like a 6, 7 out of 10.
Homer gets it into his head that he needs to take Lisa out on a nice date, like a father-daughter date.
Yeah.
And that leads to an interesting scene at Moe's.
Yeah. So they're doing this weird correlation between dating a girl and he calls it he's like, I got a date with her, and it works as shorthand. We've talked about this with Lisa and her friend played by Emily Blunt, and Bart with Bart had a friend
Nelson.
Bart and Nelson in the Brokeback parody, where you can use romance as a shorthand for
friendship.
A different kind of friendship, or in this case a paternal
like
relationship.
the same beats of a love story in a friendship
and
story.
It's storytelling shorthand. You can follow along because you know the beats. You're so familiar.
Yep.
That said, because they're explicitly saying date, in the back of my mind, I was like, oh, this is a little... I didn't say the word incestuous, but I was thinking of those tones. But it's okay, because if you're using it as shorthand, that's bound to happen. But I'm smart enough... Well, I'm smart enough to say it's not incest.
You were thinking it, but the Simpsons writers were making it literal.
Yeah, so Homer literally goes, I got a date with my daughter. And Cletus is sitting next to him, and he says, oh, big deal. It's like, you acted like you invented air conditioning.
Right.
Implying that Cletus has had dates with his daughter. Which is, again, look, the incest thing is going to be there if you're making that comparison in the first place. But we're all smart. We're all adults. We can say, look, this is not... Homer doesn't want to fuck Lisa. We're smart enough to know. For the Simpsons writers to come out and make a joke about it, it's just icky. It's unnecessary. Yeah. And then on top of that, you're implying that Cletus does has incestuous relationships with his daughter. Look, he's married to his sister.
There's a difference between Cletus the slack-jawed yokel, and Cletus, the incestuous hillbilly, who possibly kills people.
He is, he's been incestuous for a long time now. Him and Brandine share the same parents. They've mentioned that before, but it's okay because they're siblings. They're, she's of age. If they're brother and sister, if they want to do it, they can do it.
Right.
God bless them.
Okay, well, whatever. Maybe not. But
it depends on if you're a Lannister.
It's slightly better than a daughter. Yeah, right.
But a daughter, that's really icky because then you got how old is she? You got those are questions that shouldn't even be asked, let alone answered.
Yeah.
Don't belong in The Simpsons. Don't belong here. Maybe Family Guy, which is a raunchy show.
crass moment.
Family Guy can probably do an incest joke, and I would laugh. They've done really raunchy jokes. There's one of my favorite Family Guy jokes is early on when Peter Griffin or somebody, maybe the dog, they go to a really fancy rich people rehab, and Peter just goes, "Oh man, this was where God would have to go if he had to stop doing coke." And that's such a great layered joke because not only is it really offensive and the fact that this is where God would go, but the idea that if God had to stop doing coke, he's still doing coke because he's God, he can do it. There's just so much, I love that joke. But whereas if that same joke was in The Simpsons, I'd be like, "Ugh, what are you doing, guys?"
Yeah, no, that doesn't fit the universe.
So incest, Cletus, come on. What are you doing? I hated this episode.
I can tell. So let's just finish talking about it. They're at the Gilded Truffle. They're having this nice dinner. Lisa's loving it. And there was the one line that I actually really liked was Homer goes to the waiter and he says, "What is the normal amount of entrees per person?" I thought that was very funny and a good Homer line. But then they go on and on and on. They do go on and on.
The guy goes, "1." And then Homer goes, "But what about for adults?" And he goes, "1." And then he goes,
"Adult men.
What about adult men?" 1. And it's just like, we got the joke. You're not adding anything to it.
Sometimes in my head, after I hear something I like, I stop paying attention completely. And it's like, that's just the end of it.
That's why we haven't had the heart to tell you how the Matrix sequels turned out. But
sequels? Neo's not flying around to Propellerhead?
So they kind of killed that entree joke.
But the first
line was good.
So Marge comes in and she's wearing a big coat, and you and I both had the same thought that is she naked under that coat? Because we wouldn't put it past the show.
That's what they've done to us.
Because she does. Well, she comes in and she's like, "Homer, I feel bad that I said blah blah or whatever," and I was like, "Is she gonna fuck him here in this restaurant?"
It's not just Marge. You see any TV or movie character in a trench coat. There's something under it.
Not only in a trench coat, but you couldn't see anything under the trench coat. It was very deliberately hiding something.
That's why anytime my dad's wearing his trench coat, I get nervous.
Hey, Jack, you want to come into this chat room with me? No. I'm wearing my trench coat. Hey, Jackie boy! We're both your father. One's the pedophile father and one is John Travolta. Or possibly Joe Pesci.
Wasn't that a sitcom in the 80s?
Yep.
My two dads, one is a pedophile, the other is John Travolta.
It was the longest sitcom title in the history of television.
But the shortest sitcom.
That's right. It lasted 5 minutes. Once the pedophile came out, they yanked it off the air.
They should have saw it coming based on the title.
They really should have. It was very explainy, but not over-explainy.
Or Angry Whisper.
It's late. But no, Marge is not naked under her coat. She's wearing a very elaborate dress, and it may have been worse than her being naked because she's wearing this nice dress, and she says something.
Remember that sewing machine I got, and I always said I was going to use it to make a dress? Well, I sold it and used the money to buy a dress. They've done that joke before.
That's not a bad joke. They've misdirect.
It's a quick classic misdirect. Yeah. But then Homer says, "You got that from Project Runway," and she says, "Shh, quiet." So not only is they hinting that she was on Project Runway, and she's shy about it, which I don't even get. I'm not sure how Project Runway works.
You and I both looked at each other and we were like, what was that? What was that line? What is it supposed to be? And then we were watching the credits, and it said, "Promotional consideration paid for by Project Runway."
Yeah.
So this was not only just a weird line, it's product placement for Project Runway?
Is that what that line in the credits meant? I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell what that was.
Maybe that was a joke. The line in the credits.
Because she literally just said she sold her sewing machine to buy the dress. So now she's saying she stole it from Project Runway? Like
I have no idea. I don't understand anything about the Project Runway.
She wore it on the show and then kept it home, took it home with her. But
I don't understand what it is.
Bought it.
I don't understand what it means in universe. I don't understand what it means out of the universe. I don't understand what it means in the multiverse with Jan and Dack.
It's honestly more confusing than the trying to decipher like the intricacies of second person.
Yeah.
I think we would figure out. You would figure out talking in second person when you hypothetically.
Yeah.
I think we would solve that before we would ever parse this joke.
Yeah, you could solve that pretty quick. Jan and Dack are probably talking in fourth person, and they're like, "This is the most clear-cut joke they've ever done."
Is fourth person when you're talking throughout time?
They're just, I don't even know.
That's kind of mind-bending.
Yeah, like the doctor from G.I. Joe. His name was Dr. Mindbender.
Yeah, that was a terrible line. I
also wrote, what happened to Lucas? Because he just vanished.
Yeah. Why is he the name of the episode?
I have no idea.
Did they think it was so funny to do a Kesha parody by having was it a
Kesha parody?
I mean, who else has a dollar? Oh, I guess Arliss. We already established.
We already established this many hours ago.
Were they so excited about doing an Arliss parody that they named the episode after Lucas when he had nothing to do with it?
Yeah,
it doesn't make any sense. So the reason Marge is wearing the dress is she's decided that she tells Homer, "Look, Homer, I'm happy the way you are. I don't mind that you're a big fat schlub and that you're not perfect. I love that about you, and I'm rewarding you with this dress." That's what this dress was, wherever the hell it came from. So we've seen
it doesn't make any fucking sense. Is that where we're going?
We've seen this 50 times before, where it's just as common again as Homer gets a new job and Lisa gets a new cause. It's the Marge decides she loves Homer for who he is, and they used it for Secrets of a Successful Marriage, which I think is one of the weaker season 5 entries, because it's I don't like the resolution. And they've done it so many times since because there really is no right answer. It's either Marge has to realize, oh, I have to leave Homer, he's holding me back,
right?
So you can't do that. I'm just sick of seeing this plot line because we've just seen it so many times, and what's baffling is if we're seeing it so many times. And
we're just seeing worse versions every time.
And not only that, even like I said, the original great season 5 episode, even that's kind of a cop out because why is she? I don't know. I mean, he didn't really do anything wrong. He's just being himself. But that's the resolution to this episode. She's just like, okay, never mind. Like that's not a story. That's not an arc.
No, it's not. There was no arc throughout anything in this episode. There was basic storytelling failed in this episode.
So she goes, look, I'm okay with you. He's okay with her. All right. So back to my dinner with Lisa because now I'm trying to still be a better dad for her because she wants somebody. Maybe I
guess maybe he was accepting oh, it's okay. My wife does love me, but I should want better for my daughter.
Okay, so I guess that's it. But they don't really do much.
They don't really say that or do anything with it.
So we're like, okay, so now Act 4 will take what Homer's learned with this Marge and progress the story. Nope. And this will apply to the central relationship of Lucas and Lisa.
Nope, not at all.
But it does. It cuts to a scene with Lucas and Lisa.
It cuts to a scene with Lucas and Lisa, but we're done with Homer. Homer doesn't appear anymore. It's just one quick scene.
We thought it was the start of a fourth act, and then it wasn't.
It's one very, very quick scene where Lucas has given up competitive eating, changed his name to Pound Uka $, and he's going to try doing whatever Adele is.
And then it ends.
That was terrible, but
we were shocked that the episode ended.
Yeah, because, and then the credits.
Because there was no resolution. It just ended.
It just ended.
It was like if you were watching a movie and you just turned it off 20 minutes early, and then that's the end of the movie. It's just crazy. It's mind-boggling.
And that's Lucas.
It doesn't really start. It doesn't really end.
Yeah.
There's nothing in the middle. Why is it called Lucas?
I have no idea.
Okay, honey. I made you pork chops just like you like them. 20.
Thanks, babe. Sorry you had to drop out of college to feed me full time. Now give us a kiss.
All right, so that's it for Lucas. We are going to rank it on our 4-factor test. We're going to look at the humor, the integrity, the production values, and the originality episode. If you don't know what any of those things mean, go listen to old episodes. We're doing that on a scale of 0 to 5. We're going to put some time on the clock. Jack, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so the humor of the episode. I think I know what you're going to say, but what do you got?
I try not to be radical and give. I don't know if I want to give it a 0.
That thing that Milhouse says.
I feel like a 0.5 is too high and a 0 is too low. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe a 0.
If it helps,
a 0 would be if I didn't laugh once. Like I said, my favorite jokes of the episode weren't really that great. That's why I'm tempted to give it a 0. I'll say 0.5.
I'm going to say 0.5 also because there was a few times that I actually laughed, like maybe 1 or 2. So I'll give it a 0.5 for that. The integrity of the episode, what do we think?
I actually didn't think that, like, I like the idea of Homer and Homer and Lisa having this dynamic.
Aside from the scene where Homer and Lenny and Carl are like, oh, he's calling, like, there wasn't a lot of out of character.
No, that's what I'm saying. There really wasn't.
The problems with this episode was it was not funny and the storytelling was terrible.
Yeah, no, they weren't really out of. Yeah, they weren't really out of shape. The characters. I mean, I don't really buy why Lisa would get with why she suddenly like this. I'll say 2.5.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with 2.
I was thinking 2.
All right. The production of the episode, there was nothing that especially jumped out at me. I liked the animation of Maggie's toys, the fat pig, and
I liked the look of the
coyote.
coyote and the thing.
Yeah.
2.5.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think I'm with you on that one. And the originality of the episode will also put in all our storytelling problems into the originality.
So I'm tempted to give it a 0 because this was one of the, like, it really was such a mess. But I do like the actual plot. The idea that Lisa falls for a Hoju.
That was my instinct,
although
too.
That's not what it really was.
But also, and even just the fact that it's competitive eating, which you've never seen, and that's an interesting idea, but they waste all that stuff.
Yeah, and...
Like, there's a better episode in this that we will never get to see because they just... went with the first draft.
I really am saving my 0 for.
I probably won't go 0,
else.
but I think
0.5.
I think I'm also going to do 0.5.
Yeah.
I think we have the same.
I'm
almost have the same rating.
I'm still tempted to give it a 0 for humor because again, this is the least funniest episode I think I've watched so far. But maybe there's a less funny episode out there, so I'll stick with 0.5.
Okay, so we have crunched our numbers, and Lucas, with a $, has ranked as a slightly better episode than Battlestar Galactica.
Our original worst episode.
That's right, our first episode ever. And a slightly worse episode than How I Met Your Mother.
I think that's a good spot for it, because like I said, I do think this is the least funny episode we've covered so far. So that means I think it's less funny than Battlestar Galactica. I think it's less funny than Bonfire of the Manatees. I think it's less funny than our worst episode ever, the greatest story ever done. But I don't think it's a worse episode, because there's other things that can really...
Right.
Like all of those Battlestar Galactica and below, I feel like all those are like Simpsons breaking
broken.
series. They did something fundamentally wrong. This didn't do anything fundamentally wrong. It just wasn't funny and the story sucked.
Yeah, I agree with you.
It wasn't a story.
And that's enough for it to squeak into our bottom 10.
Yeah,
bottom 10 episodes.
It belongs. That's
Number
a perfect
10.
spot for it.
Yes, it is. And if you disagree, we don't care. So that's it for this episode of Worst Episode Ever.
Your French-Canadian death camps.
So that's it for this episode. If you have a terrible episode you'd like to suggest, I guess you can do that. You can do that on our website, wepodcast.com. There is a form to suggest an episode. It's very easy to do that. And while you're there, you can click through our Amazon link. We'd appreciate that. And thanks for downloading the show and for telling your friends. We really appreciate that. And check us out on iTunes, leave us a review, all that fun stuff. You can find us individually on Twitter. Also, I'm at ThenDanSays.
I'm at Jackie No Breaks. I was gonna say at Then Jack Says, like as a spoof of your name, but that's not actually my Twitter handle. Yeah, so leave that guy alone.
Yeah, and if you are listening to this today. Well, you're always listening to it today. If you're listening to it tomorrow, you have traveled through time,
You're
sir.
talking in fourth person.
That's exactly... We solved it!
We solved it.
If you're listening to this the day it comes out, tonight is Simpsons Trivia at Berry Park. It is usually the first Thursday of every month, but for July, it's the second Thursday of the month. I co-host Trivia with friend of the show, Dan Ozzie, and if you're not in Brooklyn, there's also Trivia nights in Toronto, Chicago, Detroit, Ann Arbor has one, Calgary has one.
Actually, the French-Canadian President Bieber has actually banned all Simpsons Trivia,
right.
so
they used to be around, so Google around and maybe you can find information about what they were like. So, next week, we are going to be watching an episode from season 19 called Midnight Towboy. So
Can't wait.
Get ready for that one.
I can wait, but
yes,
actually, I'll be waiting a month or when you come back from Europe.
far off land. Well, I'm back when this episode has come out, but not when we're recording.
I mean, you're talking in fourth person again.
That's right.
Fifth person, I guess, if it's different time and place. Anyway, Midnight Tollboy next week. And guys, don't forget, Summer Fans continues. And even if you're in your French-Canadian death camp, give us your cat submissions, your meows.
Yes, cut all this.
Just record yourself saying meow and send it our way, and we'll play it at the end of the episode, just like we're about to do now.
With a submission from Mr. David Smith. So take it away.
David from Detroit.
Take it away, D from the D.
Hi, this is David Smith calling in from Detroit, Michigan, signing off today saying good night and good Bluck. Bluck? You know what? Cut all this.